You're listening to the Beyond Sundays podcast. Each week we talk to people just like you from all over the world who share stories of God's faithfulness and His goodness. Because the God who did still does. Today we sit down with Jeff and Denise Harrell, both public school teachers and parents to 3 kids. Oh, did we mention that they are triplets? They share the rhythms that they have learned to have in place to help them stay connected to the Lord in busy seasons and in times when they know they need to rest. We also talk about their love for the mountains of Colorado, why they find the time to go, and what they've learned about God and experience there as they behold the beauty of His creation. I personally loved this conversation when we had it several weeks ago, but as I've sat in it, the Lord has truly undone something in me. I can't really put it into words quite yet, other than just to say that God really is real, just like you're going to hear from Jeff in this conversation. So stay tuned to the very end. There's something I feel the Lord is wanting for you. So I'm going to encourage you to carve out some space for that sometime today or in the next few days. So let's get to it. Hello and welcome. We are so excited to jump into a conversation today with Jeff and Denise Harrell. I've known the Harrell family for just a little while, a few years, and have known their kiddos for a while longer. But they are just a wonderful family that invests in the Beltway Park family and have been around for a while. So I'm gonna introduce y'all. Today I have Jeff and Denise Harrell. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
Thank you
For having us.
It's good to be here.
I'm so glad to have both of you here, and thank you for taking the time to come up and have a conversation with us about just the Lord's faithfulness and His goodness to us, and how important it is to be in His presence, how that refreshes our souls. So why don't y'all tell a little bit about yourselves and how long have you been at Beltway? Tell us about your family. Just give us a little snippet of who you are.
I think we've been at Beltway. Should have let Denise do this. Did we start coming here when the kids were in
5th grade?
5th grade, and so now they just graduated college a year ago. I have to do everything by kids in school.
Right.
So
You are a math teacher. You can figure it out.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 years now.
Yeah,
maybe?
probably.
About
Something
12
like
years.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So time flies. So we've been here 12 years. We came over when our kids were in middle school, going to middle school. All of our kids are the same age. We have 3 kids that are fixing to be 24.
Mm-hmm. They're triplets.
Yep.
Yes.
So 2 teachers and 1 electrical engineer living in Dallas.
Uh-huh.
I hope he takes care of us one day.
Oh.
We're both school teachers. I teach 8th grade math out at Jim Ned. And
I teach kindergarten here in Abilene at Austin Elementary.
yeah. Other than that, I don't know that we're school teachers and kid raisers.
That's amazing.
But it's fun. I really do. I love it still. It's a lot of fun. I tell people that I don't work, but I have a job.
Mm-hmm.
I get paid to hang out with kids, so it's fun. I enjoy it every day still.
Well, when you love what you do, it's
Absolutely.
not as much of the work, it's the fun.
Yep.
And it makes it worth it. That's amazing. Well, can y'all, since y'all are both teachers and we've literally just started the school year, we're at the beginning. How are y'all feeling?
Well, I teach littles. I teach kindergarten. So for me, it's just constant all day, every day. And I describe teaching kindergarten like planning a birthday party every single day.
Oh.
So that's what it's like for me.
Wow. So it's a lot.
Yeah,
There's
it is.
so many moving pieces and details, and you've got to handle it all.
I do. I get there early and stay late. It'll even out a little bit as we get into the year, but right now it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Jeff teaches 8th grade, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit different.
It's easier. I don't want to say babysit because that is insulting. At least she's sitting across the room right now.
Yeah, you better watch out.
But it's a different set of fun, and it's a different set of challenges as well. They're a neat age. I think 8th graders are kind of the big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
So it really is. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's not without issues. They're 13 and 14-year-old kids, and I'm old enough to know better some of the dumb stuff they're doing, but I'm young enough to remember when. And it's a neat ministry opportunity. I get paid to go love kids, and and hopefully at the end of the year they know a little more math and they see another way to do life. But I really do. I love it. But it's crazy in a different way. It's, hey, I need a piece of paper. Do you have any extra pencils? I left my book in my locker. I got to go to the bathroom, and it's all day long.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, you guys know we're in the middle of the spiritual growth campaign, The Restful Life. And, in that, we're talking about our identities as sons and daughters, and how do we live life and also like be in the world and not of it. So I'm curious for y'all, as you've just jumped back into school and the routines of what that looks like. It's a lot all at once. It's kind of like you just hit the ground running. I think that's one of the phrases that y'all used in a previous conversation I had with y'all. So I'm curious, what are your rhythms like in the mornings or during the day to connect with the Lord, to just get in his presence so that you can be grounded as you start your day, rooted as you go throughout your day as teachers, as parents, as friends, as husband, wife, all the things that you guys do?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm getting up early. I get to school well before our kids, but I'm a Sonic person,
Ooh,
and
yeah.
so I do Sonic
Hey, sister, me too.
every single day. I know my ladies by name, and I know their kids, and so it's a ministry opportunity going to Sonic every morning. But I do that, and I read a little devotional while I'm waiting on my drink, and so that's kind of will start my day. I usually pray on the way back to my house because I live across the street from school, so I don't really have to drive to work. I drive to Sonic, drive back home, and then walk to work. And then I start at school. I get there around 7, and I have worship music every day, and that really helps center me. The Lord usually gives me a song every year for that year, and I usually play it first. And I just have a really great playlist that I do, and really any afternoons after school, I do the same thing. And then obviously at home, I have my own like Bible reading. But then just throughout the day, when you teach little kids, I mean, I'm always reminded of the Lord. He wants us to be like little children. So he teaches me lots of things by the way they interact with each other, the way that they find joy, the way they forgive, the way they love. And so for me, I love what I do as well. I really do. And so I just see his fingerprints all over my day, and that really does help me stay centered and focused. And even though there's chaos happening at times, but that keeps me centered. So.
I think that matters a lot when you are aware of and you're looking for ways that you can connect with the Lord throughout your day, because he wants to be a part of what you're doing. He is a part of what you're doing. It's whether or not we're aware. Right. And paying attention, I think that's a really beautiful perspective. So go a little bit deeper with these Sonic Devos real quickly. Because I like Sonic too. I'm a Sonic girl. So I need to know, one, what's your favorite drink?
Well, I do a Route 44 Diet Coke with vanilla.
No.
Every day. So.
Okay, I have a large Diet Coke with vanilla.
Well, I need the Route 44 to get through a day with 25-year-olds.
I'm sure you do. You deserve that Route 44.
So that's what I do. Honestly, I probably, for the past 3 years, I read this same little devotional book every day. It's Christine Cain's Unshakable. I just like it. It's short. It's always got a good little scripture focus. And I don't know. That's just what I do. It's just enough time. By the time I've apped in my order and get there, I can read that and then be back in the car. And so, and I like reading it over a year because then I'll start remembering it. And
you're really getting it in you.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I do. I've shared that with my coworkers as well. And so they all have it. They all have that same devotional. So sometimes we talk about it like, hey, did you read it today? And it's just a good opportunity to to have a spiritual conversation with the people you work with too.
Absolutely.
So,
well, if y'all are interested in that, I'll put that link to that Bible study in the show notes at the end of the podcast, at the bottom of the podcast. So you guys can also, if you're interested, being able to check that out.
yep, it's a good one.
Yeah. So, Jeff, what about you? What are some of your rhythms of how you stay grounded in your faith and rooted, but also ready for your day?
It's probably a lot of, cliche stuff that, oh, yeah, I do the same thing. But I get up with Denise, which I really wouldn't have to get up that early. I throw on a hat and some pants and walk out the door pretty much.
Yeah, it's so not fair.
Yeah.
It's not.
Right, Denise?
That's exactly right.
But I figured it's hard to lay in bed when she's jumping in the shower and getting ready to go. So I started getting up with her, and I thought, I've got 20 minutes. And so I kind of made that I get up and I read. I've got a journal, and I used to not be a journaler. And I really like it now. I feel like sometimes I can just pick up a pencil and it just starts, I don't know, you just kind of pour your heart out on a pencil, on a paper with a pencil. And so I journal a little in the morning, write prayers, write what I feel like I'm thinking about, who's on my mind that I want in my prayers that day, and what I want to see, and what he wants me to see. I spend time reading. I usually pick a book of the Bible and sift through that at a time. On Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, I try to text my kids something from what I'm reading and a prayer over them. I love worship music. It does my heart good to listen to and to sing about how good God is, how faithful he is in a world that is fallen apart.
Right.
So just really things like that. It's pretty cliche answers. I spend my time on my way to work. I get to drive south toward Tuscola, and I get to watch the sun come up over, I guess I'm going to call it a lake.
Kirby.
Kirby.
It's the pond, the lake, whatever. But I get to watch the sun come up over there, and it just, God just speaks to me through wow, you're just as faithful as the sun. It comes up every day, and you're good every day. And I usually go to work without the radio on so I can pray and so I can listen, see if I get a name come to mind. Or it's just more time to spend without distraction. Sometimes there's nothing specific about it. It just eliminate a distraction so he can tell me what he wants me to see, how to think, so to speak.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So
in an earlier conversation you and I had, Jeff, you mentioned the transformative work of the Spirit that he has done in your life over time. So I want to go a level deeper there. And you mentioned that the Lord has really taught you over time the importance of rest and peace that is yours, that you can have even in the middle of times and seasons that are tough, in the middle of storms. Can you go a little bit deeper, give a testimony or story of how the Lord has revealed that or shown that to you, and what have you learned over time?
Yeah, I think it's easier. I've thought about this a lot, and since the last time we visited, and I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, last week this happened, and then 2 months ago this happened, but sometimes you see God's biggest work when you look the farthest back, if that makes sense. And I know who Jeff was 10, 20, and 30 years ago, and I don't have any super story, I guess, like Paul, but I can just, it's the evidence of God. I've actually I get to have a lot of neat conversation with kids at school. And in the last year, I've had conversations with 4 kids, and they each told me something along the same lines. And to paraphrase it, it's, man, I feel like I really figured out God's real. And I'm like, well, what do you, and they looked at me and, interrupted and said, no, I knew he was real, but he's really real. What that stuff says in the Bible is really real, and I can look back and that's what I see. Young and dumb, I was a Christian and I went to church and sang the songs and showed up every Sunday, and I feel like I look back, and because of what he's done through me, your grace is real, and your spirit is real, and what you really do when I open a book and read it, open your word and read it, or spend time in worship, I can see how it transforms me. And I feel like when you see results, it causes me to want to, I want to go read some more, or
Right.
I want to listen to some more worship music. And kids at school sometimes say, hey, what kind of music you listen to? And I said, well, I used to listen to this, and it's just that the Spirit of God really just, I feel like the more that you press in, the more He infiltrates, I guess, infuses just everything that you do, if that makes sense. I think those small disciplines put you in a position to be transformed. And so I guess we obviously play a part in it.
Right.
But I really look back, and it's really, He does it.
Absolutely.
The more that I feel like I can humble myself and submit my heart to Him, if
That's
that
good.
makes any sense.
Absolutely. Well, I think when we position ourselves before the Lord through surrender, and that's what we're doing when we come before the Father, and whether that's through worship or prayer or being on our knees, or how we actually respond to people in the middle of the moment, and it changes the way we respond and the way we look at life and our perspective. Those things all change when we recognize the presence of God is with me. I know it. I know this with everything in me. So Denise, how does that look in your life as you walk through your day from sun up to sundown? You wear a lot of hats.
Sure.
Planning lots of birthday parties for little kids. But also you're a mom, and you're a friend, and
Sure.
you do so many other things too. So in what ways do you see the Lord revealing Himself to you throughout your day? How are you just aware? How are your eyes open to being aware of His presence, aware of the work that He's doing in your life, rather than just blazing through your day, and not giving it a second thought?
Well, it's kind of, I would say it's like Jeff. I haven't always been that way. It's very, in your younger life, I could blaze through it and think, oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. But the older I've gotten and the more that you press in, I feel like your spirit is just on alert. And I would say definitely in the past 4 years, it's been that way. When I went back to public school, it's a challenging environment. And so, I don't know, my spirit just turned towards Him, I guess, because I press in more, and it's transformative. Another thing that I really do a lot too, to not get overwhelmed, is keep a thankful journal. I read a book by Ann Voskamp, and she said that she did that, and it helps you focus on all of the things that you are thankful for, even the ugly beautiful, as she calls it. And so I actually do that with my team as well at school, because it's really easy to get focused on a lot of the negative and things in school, or the stories of kids. And so before we start our meetings, we just try and list some things that we're thankful for. I've done that at home at the end of the day, just to always it just helps me refocus. And I feel like doing that probably, 8 years ago or so, that really has changed my thought process. And so in the midst of it all, I can just always be thinking of the things that I'm thankful for and how the Lord is working in that. And so I would probably point back to that thankful journal as being a real key in my life of just refocusing how I view things. And then just, I feel like the older you get and the more you've pressed in, the more He transforms.
Right.
The more I'm looking for Him, and I'm thinking about Him. And even in the midst of, could you tie my shoe? And,
Right.
I need a pencil, or all those things that happen that consume my thoughts every day. And just, I don't know. And I look at those kids, and those are His kids that I teach every day. And, it just change when you think that and you go into the day with that mindset. It just changes how I react, what I say, what I do. And
Well, it sounds to me like you're praying for the mind of Christ.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that is definitely how we can operate from the place of being His kid.
that actually is the the song for my year. It's a River Valley worship song. It's Be Like Christ. So that is my song for this year that I start my day with.
That's amazing. And what was the book by Ann Voskamp?
It's 1,000 Gifts.
1,000 Gifts. Okay, I was wondering if it was that one.
Yes.
We'll put that one in the show notes as well for those of you who might be interested. Well, switching gears just a bit, because I want to thank y'all so much for the way that y'all have lived your life with intention. You know, that's something from our previous conversation that I was really encouraged by just you seeing God work in your life over time and the benefits outweighing the cost, right? That there is a cost to all things that are good. All good things not only take time, but they also cost something, right?
True.
And I mean, but that's where the good stuff is. That's where the good fruit is. But fruit also takes time to grow. We also have to be aware that it, does take time to grow and be patient with that. So I want to switch gears to a secret that y'all have uncovered that I want us to talk about in regards to Colorado. So let's chat about y'all's Colorado trips. For those of y'all who may not know the Harrells, they take a trip to Colorado every summer. They're teachers, so they do get the summer off. They get that break. Bless.
Thank goodness.
Yes, and it's a well-deserved, timely time for your family to get away and to go somewhere that you love, because you do love the mountains. And Jeff, you mentioned earlier how much you love the sunrises, even on Lake Kirby.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're much better in Colorado. So tell us about how all that started, just a real brief history of how that started and how long have you been doing it and why?
We started, my family, we used to go skiing in the winter, and we were on a shuttle bus one day up to go skiing, and I guess my dad said, well, it sure is pretty up here. And the bus driver, just out of nowhere, leaned back over his shoulder and says, you think this is pretty? You should come up here in the summer. And he thought, it's a bunch of grass-covered hills. What are you talking about? And so my parents came out and were like, wow, he's right. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Lakes, streams, wildflowers, tall mountain peaks, beautiful valleys. And then they brought us back, and just kind of like, wow, unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And so we started going back, I guess, with my family for a while, and then on our own. We started in a tent with three-year-olds.
So the basics.
Oh, yeah.
Sleeping bags and...
Yep. And then we owe Dr. Wiley, our pediatrician, he knew we did this, and he says, man, why don't y'all take my pop-up? And I thought, well, okay. It had
So
two
we
king
did.
beds.
So from small beginnings with a tent to a pop-up. Awesome.
Yes. So we did that and came home and thought, we need to go get one of these.
Yeah.
This is nice. It gets us up off the ground, a little more storage. And so we bought an old cheap pop-up.
But we've gone to Colorado the kids were little. They were born in September, so we went in the summer. So we've been...
So before they were one?
Yes, before they were one. I took a whole tub of baby food with us the very first time. So
literally.
Yes. But we've gone every summer since they were little babies.
Yeah. So not only is it just to experience, cooler temps, that's nice.
That
From
is
Abilene,
good.
Texas to Colorado, that's a big difference in the summertime.
That was a big motivation.
Yeah, and also family time. I know y'all talked about the benefits with family. But can y'all go a little bit deeper into the benefits that you've seen over time, as this has been a rhythm, an annual rhythm in your life, where you've taken time out to do something with intention?
We probably started going because I love the mountains. I just want to go to the mountains. Mm-hmm. And I think we got there, and as they were starting to get a little older and had a cell phone, and I think there was a year that we thought, wow, we've been here 4 days, and it's, long story short, I guess you feel like you kind of get your kids back. Mm-hmm. They kind of unplug. We stay a lot of places where they didn't have any cell service, no video games, no TVs, and we played a lot of board games, and it was really weird. You could watch them. I felt like we could have done a documentary on kids, and to watch them really go back to, I don't know, just a true inner
I felt like
innocent.
I always told Jeff, I felt like I see their true personalities come back through. I think you take away all the pressures that even a middle schooler or late elementary, high schooler has. And they honestly, I think, just got to take a breath, and they were just
reset.
Yeah, like who they really are, and then see them engage with God's creation in a different way too. Dylan loves to look at the stars, and so you get to engage with him in doing that, or they're hiking, and they really don't hike with headphones like a lot of people. And at one point, one of them said, like, you can hear all the things. Why would you want headphones? You can hear the birds.
Wow.
You could
That's
hear
good.
all the things. So, I don't know. We just, over time, we just started seeing, wow, this was more than we even anticipated that it would be.
Not just vacation,
Right.
but this
For our
is like
kids. Sure.
benefiting our family
Yes.
at a
Exactly.
deeper level.
I mean, even the board games. I
Yeah.
mean, my kindergartners, most of them have never played a board game. So just doing that from when they were little and translating that even back to home, because you will play board games at home sometimes, just that alone was just so beneficial.
Yeah. When we carve out time for things that matter the most, like we do, there's a lot that comes from that. There's fruit that comes from that. And in our earlier conversation, we chatted about some of the things that your kids were able to enjoy and discover about themselves, about who God made them and how He made them, in regards to what they actually enjoy doing. So, can y'all talk about like them discovering that over time?
Yeah. I think in West Texas, not that football, basketball, soccer, baseball is bad, but there's not a lot outside of those things to do in Abilene. I don't want to talk bad about Abilene.
Yeah, we love Abilene.
We love Abilene. It's a beautiful place, beautiful people. But we get up there, and Dylan discovered he loves to fly fish. And Dylan spends a lot of time fly fishing. They all like hiking. Me and Drew are climbers, and we're trying to climb all the 14,000-foot summits in Colorado.
Wow.
Which is neat.
That's
'cause
impressive.
we get to do
Yeah.
it together too, and it's a lot of fun, and I love climbing, and even it's evolved to I love doing it with Drew. So, and McKenna, we take kayaks, we throw kayaks in a river, and it's just, you discover things that you wouldn't, I guess, normally discover here, and to watch them enjoy that. And I mean, even, the silly things like playing a board game hey, this really is pretty fun.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, all of those things, I'm so thankful that they learn something that's like a lifelong activity. I mean, for the most part, climbing a 14er might end one day, but for the most part, they do. And it is something that they enjoy, that I think they find rest in as well. The other thing too is, we did that, and there were times Dylan missed some practices playing sports, and, might pay a little bit of a price for that a little bit. And so, we sacrificed sometimes some of his athletic-y things that he did, because this really was a priority for us to do. It was important.
Yeah.
And they're, about to be 24, and they still, all live on their own, have their own jobs, but they still desire to come and do that, and to kind of escape and reset, I think.
I mean, they all came out this summer and still did 2 weeks with us.
Yeah.
Separate, we overlapped. I think everybody was there for at least 5 days. But they're still willing to drive out and unplug, and leave friendships, relationships, their normal rhythms behind for not just 2 or 3 days, but for 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
so
Well, God's beauty, it has a way of drawing you in.
yeah, it does.
His beauty and His creation, it's overwhelming. And y'all mentioned y'all have like a 360-degree pop-up camper now. Is that
Well, I mean,
the view?
when you walk out, you can look all around and you see
Yeah.
mountain peaks.
Yeah.
So we stayed by a stream, and we could look out and see one of the 14ers actually that Jeff and Drew hiked. And
Yeah.
so, you don't get that kind of view just anywhere.
Yeah,
so.
Psalm 23 really
Yes.
hits you at a different
Yes.
level. Like, you lead me beside still waters. You quiet my soul. You restore me.
Or I lift my eyes up to the mountains. That's the verse that I always love when I'm there. And that's the other thing, like hiking and doing some of those things. When you're doing a hike, it has a lot of correlation to your spiritual journey. That it's never easy, but you know that beautiful like Caribbean blue lake at the end is worth it, and that you want to get there and you want to see it. So, through the years, you've had all kinds of opportunities to liken what we do sometimes in hiking to our own spiritual journey as well. He teaches me a lot through hiking, for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, as y'all have mentioned, this has become a rhythm in your life, but we can't always have the summer.
Correct.
We can always look towards the summer, but not everyone, we're not all teachers. We don't all have the summer. So I'd love to have your perspective of, and y'all don't always have Colorado. You come home and you have rhythms that we mentioned earlier of how you can stay grounded and how you can stay rooted. But I'm interested to hear from the perspective of connecting to the piece of what you feel in Colorado when it comes to like being aware of his beauty, being aware of his presence, being aware of the goodness that surrounds you. And how does that translate? How could you encourage people today to, if they're in the middle of a season where they would long for summertime, they would long for a day or a weekend getaway or something that refreshes their soul, what would your encouragement be to them today?
I guess number one, we're really blessed to be able to go do it for 4 weeks. So we're probably pretty unique. But I feel like God, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, one of the things I feel like is communicated to me is, you come up here and this place is beautiful and the mountains are big and the rivers are wild and the flowers are amazing. And I kind of, in the last 3 years, I've kind of come back to, or I guess from the Holy Spirit, is that I'm still good in the valleys. I'm better than the mountains. I'm better than the rivers. I'm better than wildflowers. Mm-hmm. I really do. I feel like he teaches us a lot of things up there. I spend a lot of time still with my journal and my Bible, and I bring that element of rest. He's convinced me that I'm just as good as the mountains as I am back home. So you can go home and do life with the same rhythm, the same intentionality, the same joy, the same wonder, the same amazement that you do here. You get to come up here for a month and see. Go home and open your eyes and see with your heart. Mm-hmm. And you'll see that I'm just as good. I'm just as amazing. There's still wonder. And for different people, it's different stuff. Maybe you don't have the ability to take off 4 weeks and go to the mountains. And, I'm convinced that there's people that will never get a day off. But it doesn't mean that you can't learn to do life from a place of rest. And maybe we're the poor ones. God has to get us away to teach us something like that. And somebody else learns it, in a much tougher situation. But I do think it's important to, what you learn up there, and you like the fact that the kids unplug, the things that allow you to experience God up there, you can still do here without going on vacation.
Right.
I can still put the phone away, even if I have service. I can still turn off whatever and spend time with God. Those things that made you feel intimate and close with God in the mountains, you can still do here. I think I told you the other day, it was kind of like kids at camp. The kids go to camp and everybody comes home all fired up, and then you come home and say, oh man, I'm gonna go back to school. But the same things they did at camp, I think, allow them to draw near to God at home as well. You don't have to go to camp to immerse yourself in God. You don't have to go to the mountains to crack your Bible and let God speak to you. Those same things that draw me near to the Father up there can draw me near to the Father and draw him near to me here. If that's
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I
Sure.
love that.
Just takes
perspective.
sometimes a little bit more intentionality here,
Right.
to actually turn the phone off. It's so much easier to default to a TV or a phone.
Well, because there's so many inputs
Yeah.
and demands
Yeah.
of our attention.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But we take a walk. I do find myself noticing the sunrise, sunset, the moon. I try and think, oh, take a look at the stars. They're not as many. You can't see as many here, but you still can do those things. Walking my dog here is a big deal for me, and it's just 10 minutes at night, really. But I think it just takes more intentionality.
Yeah.
Here.
So I think for people listening, think about some ways that you feel refreshed, not in the way of escaping through like Netflix or another input or something like that, or shopping, or we're not talking
Right.
about that. We're talking about ways in which you feel at rest and you feel the most at peace. For me, a simple way that I can feel at peace and at rest in the middle of my work week or whatever my week looks like is I also enjoy a walk in the evening if it's not really, really hot.
Right.
yeah.
Or sitting on the back porch, and watching something up, like whether it's the stars at night or the sun in the morning or the rain. When it rains outside, I love smelling rain. That is so refreshing to me to smell rain. And Lord, we thank you for the rain that you've brought. We ask for more.
Yes.
Lord, thank you for watering our land. But, we said this earlier, but it really does bear repeating that resting in his presence is something we need. It's a necessity. Like we all need it. And we don't just need it at the like supercharged moments, like you mentioned, earlier, where we're coming off the mountaintop of a vacation or a weekend trip. And yes, those things are good and those rhythms are amazing. And I hope and pray that some way, somehow, all of you can incorporate Sabbath or some type of retreat for yourself where you do unplug intentionally. But there are also ways that you could connect with the Father and be in his presence throughout your day. And so I'm just going to encourage you out there listening today, think about and maybe just ask the Lord, what are some ways that I can unplug, that I can set forth with intention to connect with you, whether that is through his wonderful, marvelous creation, or that is through another means of just receiving rather than doing, just being rather than performing.
Sure.
Yeah. And see what the Lord might say, because it's that in that being intention, in that intention with him, you see him,
Right.
you see him in everything. So immersing yourself in his presence helps you get out of that rut that we can sometimes find ourselves in of restlessness, right? Where we're
Yes.
just
Right.
worried and hurried and going from one thing to the next. We got to carve it out. And it ends up
Absolutely.
doing, which is what y'all have experienced with this rhythm in your own lives, is it leaves you feeling refreshed and ready for what is to come, whether it was the rest of the day or for the rest of the week or the rest of the month or the rest of the year, right? There are different things we can put into place that are healthy, that can provide the benefits that we're longing for. And I think it's just time for us to ask ourselves, what are those things we need to put in place? How can we incorporate some rhythms in our own lives to be able to live from a life that is at rest? Because God is good, just like what you said earlier. He's good on the
Yes.
mountains. He's good in the valleys. He's as good in West Texas as he is
As
in
he is in
Colorado.
Colorado,
That's
yeah.
right. Oh, you guys. Well, I want to thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. I thank you for having the desire to always press in with the Father in different seasons of your life when the seasons are hard and you're in the middle of teaching little ones or driving a school bus of kids or however it looks and whatever it looks like. Thank y'all for being leaders in our body and for being people who follow and chase after the things of the Lord and who desire to live your life from a place of knowing who you are and whose you are, and that is from a place of true rest, knowing that the Lord is with you and he will be with you wherever you go. So for y'all out there, we encourage you to press into the Father, press into the Spirit, go for a walk, If you enjoy swinging, maybe swing on a swing set for a little bit. If you've got one in the backyard or a tree swing.
I actually do.
Oh, hey. We do too. We love it. Or look up at the, like Jeff said earlier, look up. Look up and look at the sunrise or the sunset or the stars outside. And just, I encourage you this week to find ways that you can uniquely connect with God, to see his beauty, to be overwhelmed by him, so that all the other things that might be overwhelming you right now would be silenced in Jesus' name, and that you and your spirit would come in alignment with the kingdom and all that the kingdom has for you. So allow God to be part of that. God wants to meet you where you are, wherever you are, and whatever you're doing. So invite him today. Well, Jeff and Denise, thank you so much for this conversation. Y'all are awesome.
Thanks
for having us. It's fun.
It was fun.
Thanks so much for listening today. You know, I usually recap the episode here at the end. But like I said in the podcast, go to the show notes for the links to all the resources, books, and songs mentioned in the episode as tools that help Jeff and Denise remember not only who they are, but also help them stay connected to the presence of the Lord throughout their day. So do that, but also the Lord brought a song to my mind that I hadn't heard in a very long time. It came out actually in 2020, so yeah, that year. And that's probably one of the last times I believe I've listened to it. But I re-listened to that song today in my office here at work because I felt led to. And y'all, I just wept because I felt the presence of the Lord so thick. And I really was encouraged remembering how big our God is. He is real and he is here. He's with me and he is with you. And there is no one and nothing higher or better than he is. The song is Maker of the Moon by L. Limebear. It'll be linked as well in the show notes, but I encourage you to carve out some time tonight or sometime in the next couple of nights to go outside and look up and turn this song on. Let it sink in deep into your soul, beyond the way that you feel today, beyond the fears, the worry, doubt, busyness, beyond even the darkness that surrounds you right now or today. He is good all the time. And I truly believe he wants to remind you that he is near you too. Whether you are in the valley and you are brokenhearted or you are on a mountaintop right now in your life, there's something he has for you there. Then if you want, play the whole album. It's called Lost in Wonder. And I'm praying you do get lost in the wonder of our God. Thanks for listening today. We hope you'll follow along with us during our sermon series, The Restful Life, by subscribing to Beltway Park Church on YouTube. Or, join us in person at one of our physical campuses or online at live.beltway.org. And y'all, don't forget, God is moving, and he's moving in your life too, beyond Sundays.